Cheap cars that look expensive. I did it last week on cars under £20,000. Today we're going to do under £30,000. 10 cars that I think look way more expensive than 30k, but you can get them for under 30k. I'd love to do this video again at under £10,000. If you want to see that, then do hit the like button, 1,000 likes and I'll make it. And if you're one of the 77% of people that aren't subscribed, then do hit subscribe for 2 videos every single week. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. We're kicking off with probably the most expensive looking car on the list, the Aston Martin Vantage, which was built to take on the Porsche 911 in the more agile sports car market, moving away from Aston's typical involvement in the proper large grand touring luxury car space. The Vantage came with a stunning naturally aspirated 4.3 litre V8 engine, making 380 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.9 seconds, not bad for the second oldest car on the list. I would highly recommend getting a pre-purchase inspection on one of these though if you're after one, as genuinely they're known to be relatively reliable when looked after properly, but replacement parts that typically go wrong like clutches are crazy expensive. Outside of that though, this alongside of the DB9 offer some of the cheapest routes into Aston Martin ownership overall. I would go for the DB9 if you prefer wafting around, and the Vantage if you prefer something a little bit more aggressive. They'll run you around 20k at the bottom end, and 30k is enough for a 2006 model with around 50,000 miles on the clock. Next up we have the Porsche Cayman 981S, a car that I drove a couple of years ago thanks to one of you lovely subscribers and thoroughly enjoyed. The best thing about the 981 is that it's on the same chassis as the more recent 718, hence the two look very similar, and all in, it doesn't look dated yet, helping it to look more expensive than it really is. In terms of price, these actually start at around £26,000 now, cheaper even than a couple of years ago when I first drove one, and 30k is enough for a 2015 example with around 50,000 miles on the clock. For that kind of money, you'll be getting yourself a 3.4 litre flat 6 engine that makes 310 brake horsepower, the lowest power on this list, but it will still get to 60 in 4.8 seconds, slightly quicker than the Aston. It's such a beautifully well balanced car to drive, and you likely won't notice the lack of power as these will dominate most other cars around a corner, and the engine is also known to be significantly more reliable than previous Cayman generations too. Taking 8th on this list we have the 6th generation Ford Mustang, which only recently ended production and was the first gen to specifically be built with the UK market in mind, hence you can actually get right hand drive examples, and prices have dipped with the quantities we actually got over here. These come with a 5 litre V8 block which makes 410 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 4.6 seconds, plus you get to drive one of only a handful of American muscle cars that are available for us here in the UK, making them great head turners despite the more humble Ford badge. This generation really returned the Mustang badge to form, with the 5th generation being way less exotic and muscly in comparison. They're known to be pretty good for grand touring, but not necessarily the best handling sports cars in the world, and the interiors look great with nods to classic Mustangs, but modernised of course, and reliability has broadly been good, though they can be expensive to repair if they do go wrong. These are listed anywhere from around £21,000, and 30k will get you into a 2016 model with very low mileage. We're on to one of my favourite cars on the list now, the TVR T350, the car that was built as the bigger brother to the Samora and the smaller brother to the absolutely savage Sagaris. If, like me, you want a Sagaris but you don't have the 80 grand you need to get into one, the T350 might be the next best thing for under our 30k price limit, and as it's such a rare car, it definitely leaves the price up to the imagination. This is the joint most expensive car on the list, starting at our 30k price limit, and for that you'll get a 2004 model with around 40,000 miles on the clock. Considering it's also the oldest car on the list, it's still quick with its 3.6 litre inline 6 engine producing 350 brake horsepower. It's literally in the T350 name, which gets to 60 in 4.4 seconds. The shape of these is so timeless, and many more recent cars have taken a similar profile. Think about the new Supra, the F-Type, and cars along those lines. Reliability, however, isn't known to be amazing on these. It's not unlikely you'll be buying yourself a labour of love. This is definitely more of an if you know car, but the Jaguar XFR-S is a genuinely special Jag for our 30k price limit. The carbon fibre used throughout the exterior, the additional aero features like the wing and diffuser, and the more aggressive interior are all telltale signs of how special this car is, and the only saloon in the Jaguar lineup above it really is the Project 8. If anything, this is a cheap substitute for that Project 8. Like the Mustang, these come with a 5 litre V8 engine, just in this case it's supercharged, meaning it puts up 542 brake horsepower, taking this super saloon to 60 in 4.4 seconds, matching the TVR. It's an incredibly rare car with just over 110 out there on the roads here in the UK right now, so in my head I wouldn't even mind calling this car a bit of an exotic. It is quite heavy though in suspension, where therefore offers the main problem, but reliability has broadly been okay. They start at around £24,000 and 30k is enough for a 2014 model with around 45,000 miles on the clock, significantly cheaper than all other Jaguar RS models from the same era. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, then do hit the like button. As I said, 1,000 likes to do the same video again under £10,000 instead. And if you're one of the 77% that haven't subscribed, then do hit subscribe for 2 videos every single week. And let me know, for £30,000, what car are you buying? I mentioned the first generation Continental Flying Spur and the sub 20k version of this video, but now we're onto the GT version from the second generation Continental. As a Grand Tourer, this generation upped the levels from the Mark 1 by effectively evolving everything. The interior looks the same but is uprated, the exterior looks similar but is more refined, the engine is more powerful, there's a reduction in weight, better fuel economy, better heat management from the engine, all that kind of stuff. And that engine is still the 6-litre twin turbocharged W12 block, producing 566 brake horsepower, the most on this list, taking it to 60 in 4.4 seconds, but it did also come with a 4-litre V8 variant too, which is affordable within our price range. It's probably the most luxurious car on the list, but it might also be the most expensive to work on too, as though the engine doesn't have too many reported common issues, major problems will need the engine out for it to be worked on. These are running around £25,000 at the bottom end, and 30k will get you into a 2012 model that's done around 70,000 miles. I recently had the opportunity to drive the BMW i8 thanks to the amazing team over at Motorland, and I had a great time cruising around in it. It actually surprised me with how perfect a city car it would be. It looks flamboyant but drives more like a Grand Tourer and feels agile at slow speeds. Most importantly, it's an expensive looking car within our price range, helped by those dihedral doors when you get in and out. It does have a very strange powertrain however, a 1.5 litre turbocharged inline-3 engine which combines with electric power to produce 356 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.3 seconds, and unlike many other BMWs of its time, it's all-wheel drive, and the electric motor alone only having a range of around 15 miles. I love the way this car makes you feel like you're in a supercar but gives you incredible fuel economy and a cheaper entry point with decent reliability, with common issues on forums typically being related to non-engine electrics. These are listed anywhere from around the £28,000 mark, and 30k will get you into a 2018 model with around 70,000 miles on the clock. When it comes to the AMG versions of E-Class coupes, the E63 AMG is the best you can get from the W213 generation, which is interesting as the saloon and estate did get the typical 63 AMG treatment. From recent Mercedes cars though, this is the cheapest luxury Grand Touring coupe you can get into, and it's also the newest car on the list, so all in, definitely up there in terms of looking expensive. The powertrain is still pretty punchy, a 3-litre turbocharged inline-6 block which, like the i8, combines with electric power to make 428 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 4.3 seconds, actually matching the i8 too. For me, this is a baby S63 AMG, less luxurious, more executive, with a great looking interior and the benefit of owners managing to get around 30 miles per gallon out of them, which is pretty good for a performance Grand Tourer. Air suspension issues are known, and some other build quality issues have been noted by owners on forums. Alongside the TVR, this is the most expensive car on the list, as it starts at our 30k limit, which will get you a 2018 model that's done around 70,000 miles. Like the BMW i8, the team at Motorland recently let me loose in the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and it's one of the most fun cars I have ever driven, as well as being incredibly good looking. What's amazing is that while often new cars get criticised for not having souls, Alfa have cleverly combated this by giving this an insane amount of power, all going to the rear wheels with no driver aids when you whack it in race mode, and genuinely it feels like it's going to kill you at all times. And that's thanks to its 2.9 litre twin turbocharged V6 engine, which makes 512 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.8 seconds, genuinely mind-bending performance out of a rear-wheel drive super saloon. You need to check out my review on this to see exactly why I literally fell in love with this car, and why so many owners have too, as outside of some sensor and electrical issues, these have generally been pretty good on reliability despite the Alfa badge. These start at around £29,000, and a grand more than that gets you a 2017 model with 70,000 miles on the clock. Taking the top spot is the Audi RS7, another Grand Touring style executive car built on the same basic platform as the RS6, just with the boot chopped off. This is built on the first generation A7 platform, and the RS7 didn't arrive until after the first facelift in 2012, but ran through the following facelifts, meaning there are still some differences between those that are pre and post 2015, with the latter being even more modern looking and therefore maybe more expensive looking. Either way, you're getting yourself a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8 engine, which makes 552 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 3.8 seconds, though it is all-wheel drive, so will feel a lot more civilized than the Alfa. That engine also sounds becomes incredibly aggressive, and the older you go, the more noise you get from standard, which really adds to the experience of driving one. They'll run you around £26,000 at the bottom end, and 30k will get you into a 2014 model with 65,000 miles on the clock. There are known problems according to technicians with a few typical VW Group parts like water pumps and turbos though. And so there you have it, 10 cars that you can buy for under £30,000 that all look more expensive than that. Thank you very much to the patrons for their support, and to you guys well for watching, and if you want to see a video on the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio in particular, then click here.